can only work if it has historical data. How does it work with a unique problem? That you need a person. The data can never be 100% accurate. When we look at AI, look at it as something which is going to accelerate or enhance or amplify the way we do work. It's been 19 years with EY. After I completed my CA, I'm an Indian chartered accountant, though I don't look it, but yes, I am.
So as a chartered accountant, how did you see a big four, right?
Anyone who's been in finance or wants to get into finance and accounting, I think the vision is you'll join a big four. The brand is extremely, extremely important.
Absolutely.
Clients in India are not very organized. We had to really run after them for information. There would be delays. They would expect us to work through the night.
You're supposed to send me that report like 5 hours ago. What?
And I compare that to the US and UK, very organized.
The question that we always ask accountants is, do you ever have time to date?
So funny story, I actually met my wife in EY GDS.
June Pinto.
Oh, shit. That's really smart, right? Because you can't go out of EY. From a work-life balance perspective, what is the difference that you see?
A couple of things. One is the culture. You look at the GCCs that have been set up. We've actually adopted more of the Western culture. So in terms of how we work with our people, though there's a hierarchy, respect for people's time. So when people ask me, what do you do, how do you balance? What I tell them is, during the week, when I wrap up, I don't check till the next day morning when I'm at work. So I'm very strict about that.
And now that you moved into a leadership level, and of course you are leading a team of a few thousand people now, do you miss the days when you're actually doing the audit?
It was a very conscious choice which I had to make. My role is actually to help people do the things that I used to do. Because if you're so good at something and you're irreplaceable, you'll never move up in an organization.
One thing where EY will really stand out compared to its remaining three peers?
I would say that there are two things. The first thing is how integrated we are. And I think this is widely acknowledged. The second one is the way we're structured. So whether you look at consulting, tax, or assurance, you have FSO specialists sitting in a separate vertical and they all work with each other.
True. And you have GDS locations across the world. So you also have a GDS team in Spain?
We're a very people-centric organization, right? And I was very surprised to hear...
Do you take a tour around Spain like a Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara? All the public accounting firms, especially the big four, started looking at India. There's the talent shortage.
I think at the initial stages when people would set up their GCCs, it was a talent cost play. And if you look at the globe, where do you have people at scale who have accounting knowledge, who can speak English, who have more global mindset? Where's the infrastructure? And we realize that India has that.
Hello and welcome back to CPAs Unplugged, the India GCC series. Where we celebrate Indian leaders who've built the ecosystem for public accounting global capability centers in India, giving an opportunity to tens of thousands of Indian accountants to work with global clients and global teams and really build their careers in accounting while making India the global accounting hub. Today on the show, we've got Chung Tham, the assurance leader at EY GDS. Chung, what's your story?
Well, it's been a journey, right? It's been about 19 years with EY. I think after I completed my CA, so I'm an Indian chartered accountant, though I don't look it, but yes, I am. 2004 is when I actually joined EY, but the India practice. So
What made you do your CA in the first place? Why accounting? Why chartered accounting?
So I was always good at numbers. I come from actually a restaurant family. So my grandparents started a restaurant, and growing up, I was so good at numbers that my parents never sent me to the kitchen. So I'd always be making the bills and writing the orders.
And eating good food.
Of course, I'm a foodie and it shows, I'm sure. So that's what I started with. And I actually got into this profession by accident. So I had no idea what a chartered accountant was or what the profession was. And after I finished my 12th, a friend of mine told me, hey, why do you just want to do your BCom, right? There's this other course called CA and you can do a BCom and CA. At the end of 4 years, you have 2 degrees. And I thought, okay, 2 is better than 1. So my mind was working. And I got into it not knowing the profession or not knowing how challenging it was. And every time I wrote an exam, I would curse that guy. And so we started together. And he left the course within a year. He did in the ACCA, but then I continued through, and yeah. So after that, I finished it. But I've thanked him ever since. I think it was one of the best
That he pushed you
decisions
into the
that I made.
water and you figured out how to swim.
I mean, we're still best friends till today. So yeah, that I think that's held the test of time.
And then, after CA, you started working with
Right,
SR,
right.
SR Bartley Boy, EY.
Yes, the EY India SR Bartley Boy. So I was with them for 5 years, and audit throughout. So
So as a chartered accountant, how did you see a Big Four, right? It's a great brand, but the rigor, I mean, how was that? Oh, that was easy.
I wouldn't say no, I wouldn't say easy. I think anyone who's worked in a big four will realize it is quite grueling, but extremely rewarding from experience, from the knowledge perspective. So, anyone who's been in finance or wants to get into finance and accounting, I think the vision is you'll join a big four. The brand is extremely, extremely important.
Absolutely.
Right? So I joined with the intention I'm only going to stay for a couple of years and then I'll go and do an MBA and I'll do something else. But I stayed for 5 years. And the reason for that is I had a great team. So right from the manager who I worked with, the team that we built around us, I was working on different kinds of clients, large listed clients as well. So that I think when you get caught up in the work, the experience, and the reason why I love the profession is I could actually go to anyone in an organization. I could go to the CEO, CFO, head of marketing, sales, and ask them questions. And I love that, right? I worked on different industries from IT to telecom to venture capital, pharma, and I got to learn so much about the ecosystem, about different types of companies and sectors. And that was interesting. That made me stay in audit for 5 years. But I think after 5 years, I felt a bit of saturation. Said I wanted a different experience. I wanted more global exposure, which I didn't get because I'd primarily been working on Indian clients. So at that time, I actually left EY and I actually joined some friends and we had a startup. So it was more in terms of how do we bring certain brands, global brands to India in the audiovisual space. And I did that for about a year and a half.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So it was very different. It was a challenge. I mean,
Like
you had to start from
music,
scratch.
films.
So accessories. So it's accessories for television, accessories for phones, headphones, and Apple accessories, things like that. Which at that time these brands were coming up, and there was a market for accessories, and this was much before your Flipkarts and Amazon started marketing it here. So I thought that was an interesting
Entrepreneurial
change,
journey, yeah.
right? And I think most of us will have that bug. And it was early enough in my career that I could take that risk, say, hey, let me try it. If it fails, it fails. Thing lost, right? I can still carry on. So I did that for about a year and a half. We set up the company, built out the offices, started the imports, all of it. But then I didn't see eye to eye with one of the other founders, and I decided, hey, it's time for me to move on and look for different opportunities. And that's when the EY GDS came along. And it's been 14 years since I've been with EY GDS.
What magic did EY GDS do?
It's interesting because the initial stages when I joined GDS, it was at a time where people were still trying to figure out what a global shared service is. And we were doing very, very basic work, staff level execution, not in senior level and forget manager level. So I still remember talking to some ex-colleagues from EY India, and they asked me, are you ruining a career? Do you know what you're doing? And things. And I said, I saw the vision, I think, when I spoke to leaders in the interview. And at that time, in fact, I'd interviewed with a big bank and EY, and I was about 90% sure I was going to join the bank.
Okay.
Until a conversation that I had with the leader who I was working with, and the vision that he had, and I saw the growth. I said, okay, if I join the bank.
And how big was EY GDS back then, or EY GDS Assurance back then?
I think we were about 400 people across 2 locations, so Bangalore and Gurgaon. And today we are about 15,000 people, 10 cities in India, 6 countries across the world. So in fact, we just added 7. So we're a pretty large organization, and happy when we look back to see what we've achieved.
Amazing. And what did the leader with the vision tell you? How did he convince you that, Chung, this is where you need to be? The 10% to 100% is a big jump.
So So at that time, I was interviewed by Raj, who's now the assurance leader. I'm, of course, the wealth and asset management leader. So the entire interview, I was not asked a single question. I think it was him explaining the vision that he had for growing GDS and where we wanted to be.
So basically, instead of you pitching to him, he was pitching to you.
He was, because at that time, right, it was so difficult to convince people who have Big Four audit experience to actually join a shared service center. And I think after me, there were a couple of others. People had come back from different countries to India, and they saw that vision as well because they had worked in that model. And I think that's where the journey started. And I've always, whenever I speak to my supervisors, my counselors, the only thing I've told them is just give me different roles, right? Keep me interested. I don't like to get saturated, and then I'm not motivated to do anything. And I think, hats off to all the counselors I work with. They've been true to that. And I've had multiple roles, started with insurance for Americas, and took on asset management, then took on banking, right? And the journey continued. I've set up offices in the Philippines, in Spain, in Poland. I've taken on talent roles, learning roles, right? DEI roles as well. So I think that breadth of experience is what has really kept me right in the organization.
Wow. So, Chung, you worked with EY India, and then you moved to EY GDS.
Yes.
What's different between the two? And I think that's a very interesting question for a lot of folks in accounting, right? A lot of chartered accountants, CPA candidates, CPAs.
Right.
Should I work with an Indian public accounting firm? And in this case, let's say EY in India, or should I work with a global capability center, with a global firm?
Right.
And it's not an easy decision to make in many cases. So how do you compare, both these, opportunities, and specifically in your case, that you were with the same firm, with their India office, and then moved into a global role? How was that different? How was the transition? What the pros and cons on either side?
Sure. So if you're doing the Indian chartered accountancy, you have to work with an Indian CA during your articleship. So for those initial years, you have to do that. Okay. But if you're taking up a CPA or an ACCA, then you can work with a GCC, right? So that's your initial stage of the career. After that, you need to realize what is it that you want. Do you want exposure to global clients? Do you want to have opportunities to actually travel abroad? And we have had people who've gone for short-term secondments, long-term secondments, permanent transfers as well. And I think I was talking to you earlier. So we had a couple of people who've now become directors and partners, right? After having a stint in GDS, and they've gone to UK, and they've gone to Caymans and US, and now they've really hit the leadership level there. So I think those opportunities are there. For me, the challenges with working with a local Big Four, or the country Big Four, is the clients in India are not very organized. And I still remember that we had to really run after them for information. There would be delays. They would expect us to work through the night, working
Last
3,
moment,
4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So that, and I compare that to the US and UK, very organized. When they say, I'm going to deliver this client deliverable on that date, you will get it either on that date. Very rarely will they delay on that. And they'll tell you in advance if it's going to be delayed. So you're better organized. The other thing is the travel, right? As part of the Indian firm, I had to travel quite a bit to all parts of
India.
Bangalore. Luckily enough, I didn't have to travel outside. Some people do, depending on which client you're working on, especially in the telecom sector. I know a lot of colleagues used to every week,
across the
right?
country,
So that was the other factor. So for us, since we work virtually, we have a return to office policy where you work 2 days a week from office and 3 days from home. So you do save a lot in terms of the travel time. The third aspect,
but you do have to travel overseas, right? You have to travel to the US, UK. You've been traveling all over the place always.
Yes. In my role, I've had to do, and I love to travel, right? For short stints. And because for me, it's the other important factor why I'm in this role is I get to experience different cultures, meet different people. And whenever I travel, I'm a big foodie, right? So I will make sure I bookmark restaurants that I want to experiment with.
So what's
with
been
the local
your
food.
favorite travel location so far? Sorry, we just
Yeah, no, no,
digressing.
happy to. uh, Actually, the one of the most interesting one, or the one which had the biggest impact when I first started traveling, was New York. So I still remember the first time I went there. You go to Times Square and you've got all the lights, and there's so many people and so much happening, the music. So that had a huge impact. I also had the opportunity to do a couple of secondments there. So for 2 years, I was going back and forth. So when you live in a city, it's a very different experience compared to just visiting,
Visiting a
right?
city, yeah.
Because your weekend events, I can get to try so many different cuisines, and I kept New York as a base and is able to travel around. So I think that was very interesting. My most recent trip, actually, 2 weeks back, was London, and everyone compares London and New York. So I was able to do that. I see a lot of similarities in terms of a confluence of people, the kind of focus they have on culture, and it was summer, right? So I had the London Symphony Orchestra playing at Trafalgar Square. I got to see that for free because it was a sponsored event. So for a person's career, right, maybe the initial stages, technical is extremely important, right? Everyone is judged on their technical skills. But as you move up and you get into leadership positions, then I feel your soft skills actually take over and they have equal or maybe higher importance, Europe as well as the US. Food-wise, I think both were great, very different cuisines. And I think because you have such a global community that you get to try and experiment. So like the first time I tried Sri Lankan food was actually in New York, though we're so close to Sri Lanka. So that's the way it is.
True. And you have GDS locations across the world. So you also have
Right.
a GDS team in Spain?
Yeah. So I have a team in Spain, I have a team in Poland, and the team in Manila as well.
So you keep traveling to Philippines and Spain
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Poland.
Because we're a very people-centric organization, right? And I was very surprised to hear.
Do you like take a tour around Spain like a zindagi na milegi dobara?
No, I don't think I've reached the Hrithik Roshan level yet, but I did tour Spain with some friends and my wife a few years back. Loved it, loved the food, and then I went to Amalaga office a few years back. Because as Asians, we are so used to
As Asians and as accountants, I mean,
exactly. We're so used to saying, yes, I will work, I will slog, I will work on weekends, I will do that. And you go to Europe and they're saying, hey, let's try a 4-day working week in France, which actually they did pilot. And they're very clear. If it's beyond office time, they're not going. And the laws, in fact, my Poland and Spain team, the laws are very specific. People can only work for 40 hours. If it's beyond that, there's a limit in terms of how many hours. You have to give them a break after so
you
many
can't even
hours.
send them an email. I mean, or rather, the best practice is not to send emails of working hours, and you can't call people.
Yeah, so in fact, I think it's there's a law against it in some of our countries. And you contrast that to India, where people are willing 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Even this in Philippines, the Asian cultures, we don't know how to say no. Third aspect
But you do have to travel overseas, right? You have to travel to the US, UK. You've been traveling all over the place always.
Yes. In my role, I've had to do, and I love to travel, right, for short stints. And because for me, it's the other important factor why I'm in this role is I get to experience different cultures, meet different people. And whenever I travel, I'm a big foodie, right? So I will make sure I bookmark restaurants that I want to experiment with. Hey, I've already planned something else. I don't think I want to cancel it. That's not in line with my life goals. So they're very clear about pushing back. They know what their boundaries. They know what their focus areas are, and they're not scared to speak up.
So getting back to the when you moved into New York and you worked there on your secondment, what was the biggest culture shock?
I think secondments is something that really sets the GCCs apart from the local firms because people crave that international experience, right? I was working on a really large hedge fund, which was doing things which were revolutionary. They were doing algo trading. This I'm talking about 12 years back, right?
And did you, as an accountant, understand what the hell were they doing?
I was thinking, hey, I've come to audit a hedge fund, but end of the day, it turned out to be a tech.
Work-life balance, and they expect you to have yours.
Yeah.
So do you see that? And what's the contrast?
A couple of things. One is the culture. So if you look at the GCCs that have been set up, we've actually adopted more of the Western culture, right? So in terms of how we work with our people, though there's a hierarchy, it's an open door policy.
Yeah, because in EY you would be Chung sir.
So there's or in Philippines they say boss. So I was very surprised when all the partners are called boss, right? But we don't do that. So it's a very open policy. I remember there were times when I was waiting till 11, 12 o'clock to get a review done. My senior managers will come at 11 or 12 and say, oh, I think I'm done for the day. Let's do it tomorrow. That culture is not there. That's very different when I look at it from, right, the most stricter hierarchy. I'm not saying that the Indian Big Fours are that strict, but I would say
True, of course.
there is a stark difference, right? And something which I realized on my rotation to the US. So we had a very senior partner, right? He was leading the account. He came to the office, and next thing I look around, and all the staff and interns are surrounding him, and they said, "Don," I said, "How are you?" And they said, "Don, we're going to do a Starbucks run. Can I get your credit card?" Can you imagine anyone in India having the guts to go to a partner and say, "Give me your credit card"? And he smiled, and he took out his corporate card, he gave it to them, they ran down, they got coffees for everyone, and they were happy.
Oh, sweet.
So I think that stark difference of people not being, and it's conscious, because you don't want the staff to be afraid to talk to the partner, because an error can happen anywhere, right? And in recent years, a lot of the errors are with cash and bank. And who does that work? It's the staff. So if they are not scared to talk to the partner and they see something which is, they think it's wrong, or maybe they don't understand, we want them to be able to talk.
Yeah, and that's often a culture shock that we see,
Yeah.
right? We are afraid. I mean, of course, we told to sort of follow the things, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're senior and you're junior, and sometimes you're just afraid to ask questions, afraid to escalate,
Yeah.
afraid about how you'd be perceived.
So I think that's one. Travel, like I said. So one is people don't have to travel as much in a local country practice. You'll have to go all over India. You'll have to travel across. And anyone who's working in Bangalore knows you're going to spend half the day just getting from one client to the other. So I think people appreciate that. Flexibility, I think, is extremely important. So we are not an organization who puts in time trackers, and we're not seeing what time a person clocks in, what time a person clocks out. Say, hey, we treat all of you all as professionals. You know what needs to be done. And typically, because we work with US, UK, Europe, people will log in a little later, but they stay later because they have to have calls. So we give that flexibility, right? And I think that also brings out respect for people's time. I remember there were times when I was waiting till 11, 12 o'clock to get a review done, and my senior managers will come at 11 or 12 and say, oh, I think I'm done for the day. Let's do it tomorrow. That culture is not there. There's tremendous respect for people's time, and it reflects all across, even in a meeting. And here we're used to IST, right? Indian Stretchable Time. But that's not the case, right? You set up a call, you set up a meeting, you're there. If you're a minute late, people would apologize, irrespective of whatever level. So I think that is something which we can really learn to implement across and get a lot more organized.
So when you moved into New York and you worked there
Yeah.
on your secondment or
Yeah.
for a period of time, what was the biggest culture shock? And of course, you spoke about people taking the partner's credit
Yeah.
card, crowding around him. What else?
So I think secondments is something that really sets the GCCs apart from the local firms, because people crave that international experience, right? So it's one, I'm in New York, which is the financial capital of the world,
Correct.
right? I was working on a really large hedge fund, which was doing things which were revolutionary. They were doing algo trading, and this I'm talking about 12 years back, right?
And did you, as an accountant, understand what the hell were they doing?
I was thinking, hey, I've come to audit a hedge fund, but end of the day, it turned out to be a tech. It's a tech firm, and the client itself had a large operation in India, which was doing the coding for them. So they had a huge IT team here because it's algo trading. So they needed data scientists and all of some of these marquee clients, right? The other thing I talked about was all the cultural, right? When I saw the way people would work, US, they were very clear, and they knew when to take a break.
So were you the last man in the office?
On a Friday, yes. So they were very clear, and you'll see this across. On a Friday by about 5 o'clock, irrespective whether you're in busy season or not, the whole team would go out. They felt that was time for them. But they would come back on a Saturday. If they couldn't come back on a Saturday, they will come back on a Sunday. And nobody was asking them, nobody is monitoring. So there's a lot of freedom given to people to also choose the time that they want to work, how they want to work. End of the day, you have to give results. And it was a very global team. I remember we had in our team somebody from Philippines, a Korean, people from different parts of America, different backgrounds, and of course me being an Indian Chinese. So I was another mix to that salad. So that was also interesting to see different cultures and how people work. Right? So the thing is, when people travel, they have a tendency to kind of stick to people from their country or look
True.
right for people
Yeah. Birds of the
with
same
similar
feather. Yeah.
similar background and food as well. And I said, then you're missing out so much.
True.
So the ability to absorb that culture, like I used to spend weekends and look for museums, look for events and different cuisines. So I think that also had a huge impact on my personal life.
Amazing. So you spoke about auditing the hedge fund, which was
Right.
essentially a tech company in finance.
Yeah.
So often when you look at accountants, youngsters, they love investment banking.
Yeah.
They love this, place around hedge funds, working in VC firms. And you've been on the other side where you really audited a lot of them. Instead of working with one firm, you've
Right.
been on the other side. So how's been the experience auditing these, financial powerhouses? And are there times when you're the auditor, but you're like, shit, I'm not just getting what the hell is happening here?
I think that will happen in any audit, right? Because you don't know what the client is doing. There's suddenly a transaction that doesn't make sense. And this is I'd say the parallel I would draw to somebody who's going to work in a corporate versus somebody who would work in a consulting firm. And this was also the question that went through my mind when I had to choose between GDS and that bank that I was supposed to, investment bank that I was supposed to join. I said, am I going to get saturated if I'm going to be at that bank? And
So your
let's say
question was
after
whether
2
I
or
work
3
for
years.
one bank or I audit like a dozen banks.
Exactly. And I'm saying if I'm going to work in a bank, maybe 1, 2, 3 years, I'll do that. But after that, it's very process driven.
True.
And I saw that in an audit, no one person in the organization knows entirely what's happening. They would only know what's linked to their process. Whereas from an audit perspective, I get to see the end to end. I get to work, like you said, on different banks or different asset management companies. And that is what clients actually appreciate. So when you go to clients, you tell them, hey, this is what I'm seeing in the industry. They're doing this. You're not doing this. They're using this technology. Some of the benchmark analysis that we've done, right? I think for them, that's interesting. And as we had started using a lot of data analytics for our clients, and we used to take that analytics to the CFO, and you look at it and he said, I've never seen my company analyze this way. He's a CFO, right?
It's amazing.
So those, I think, the role of the auditor has changed. Earlier, the only thing that we used to give at the end of the audit was the audit report.
True.
But today, you also have to give a management letter saying what are the control deficiencies or the control improvements. Then you give insights to say, hey, this is how we analyze your business. These are things which we see your competitors are doing, you're not doing. So the role of the auditor has also changed to be more of a value provider to the client.
Amazing. And you're talking about data analytics. So how much of data analytics that you using in your firm or in general in the profession, is audit sampling still alive?
I don't think we'll ever do away with audit sampling. But I'd say the substantive procedures that we used to do, that has drastically come down with data analytics. So earlier we used to use data analytics as a support to the audit. Today, data analytics is front and center. So you would start with data analytics right from the planning stage. We didn't have the tools earlier. We didn't have the technology, which is changing. And of course, with AI, that's going to be
So
even
on
more.
the standards you say at the planning stage, the audit partner is supposed to use analytical procedures, but now it's a tool with even an
Everybody.
audit.
So in fact, we get our staff to run the data through the various Helix analyzers that we have, and right from the planning stage. So they're able to see anomalies, and then they know how is that going to affect my audit program.
Sounds like a detective.
Right? Yeah. So and if you really look at the kids today, right, who are joining the profession, they don't want to do the tick and ties that we did. I remember the first day I started my articleship, I was given a book, a pencil, and a trial balance. And I say, okay, balance it out and prepare the financials. So that was manual. And then, of course, computers came in. But today, I think kids are digitally used to doing things and digital natives right from birth. So they want to do things in a more efficient way. Because I think that's a misconception that people have about Gen Z that they're lazy, they don't want to work. It's not that. I think they want to, but they want to do things more efficiently, more data driven, and that's a smart way. So I would say the way we're doing audits has flipped to using data analytics right from planning, determines audit procedures, audit program, then you move on to control testing, then you move on to substantive. And now when we do substantive analytics, the number of samples that we really need to pick has drastically come down. Those random samples or rep samples that we used to get. Because now the tools will tell us, hey, these are all the transactions that don't make sense, right? Earlier we would just look at numbers, large transactions, but it could be related party transactions, it could be unusual pairings. So all of that gets picked up as samples first, and then you would use your sampling tools.
True.
So today, I would say you do your data analytics from the beginning, and that really reduces the vouching that we used to do. And in fact, now with data analytics, you can do 100% of the audit because you're literally testing every single sample,
Wow.
right? And if you think about really large clients, like I used to work on Hewlett Packard, and the sales file for a year would take 4 Excel files. One Excel file wouldn't fit. And there's no way we could analyze it. We used to do sampling, but now with data analytics, we can actually
Just
do that.
upload the Excel and all of that. Basically, you're auditing the entire population.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you see technology further enabling the audit process? Do you see AI taking over, and can I have an AI bot who's the auditor who signs off?
So actually, it's a scary thought, right, for anyone who's in the profession thinking, I could be replaced, right? So the pace of AI has just accelerated in the past couple of years with ChatGPT, right, OpenAI. When we look at it from an audit perspective, right, the thing is it's so new, and the data, what comes out from these AI tools, you can't have 100% reliance.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen hallucinations, we've seen wrong data. These models need to be trained, and the regulators also not yet ready to accept
Very true.
AI in the audit profession.
Very true.
So I would say we are using AI in some of our tools, like financial statements, right? When you do the tie-outs, you're doing the footing, cross-footing, internal consistency. That now we're using, and when we're doing our gap checklists, we have an AI tool to help us. When we in fact, we have large repositories of technical information, right? And it's very challenging to get the right information. AI can help us to get the exact answer that we need, rather than going through links and then spending so much time. So we're developing these tools which are tried and tested within the EY environment. So we can't use an OpenAI ChatGPT, right, for any client work.
Correct.
But we can use our EY developed tools, right, because again they've been tested and they've been approved for use. When it comes to something like Microsoft Copilot, so that's something which we've launched recently across EY. But for audit, the use case is you can do it for things outside of your client. So let's say I'm searching for public information that's available, right? Instead of me going to multiple sites, I can use ChatGPT to get me information, collate it, summarize it. We can do it for meeting minutes. We can use it for searching for things, as long as it's not used to prepare work papers and we are not putting any of our client
But you can
confidential
still use
files.
the EY LLM, so the EY models
That
for the
we
work
can.
papers. Okay.
So that's very clear. We can use our EY LLM to put in the client work papers. You can summarize, you can analyze it, but we cannot have any of the client data going into any
third-party
open source.
platforms.
Exactly.
But that's interesting. So you're saying AI is the tools for the auditors. AI doesn't become the auditor.
It can never be, right? Because if you have a unique situation, and we know today the socioeconomic changes happening, political changes, and it's happening at such a fast pace, AI can only work if it has historical data. How does it work with a unique problem? That you need a person. The data can never be 100% accurate. You need a person to review. So in fact, a lot of people in my teams have asked me, hey, am I going to lose my job? What's going to happen? Are we going to shrink our workforce? But I think when we look at AI, we look at it as something which is going to accelerate or enhance or amplify the way we do work. So today, if I can do one FS tie-out in a day, with AI, I may be able to do 5.
Got it.
And if I look at the skill sets of the people, I think there's been going to be a lot more focus on analytics. So earlier, our staff used to do a lot of data collation, right? Transforming data, creating these lead sheets, a lot of manual work. And our objective is, can we use automation and AI to remove all of that manual work, which has no value add? You're not learning anything.
Absolutely.
You're not really using your brain on it. And then get, right, data has been collated, analyzed, at least a first cut, to our people. And
So
get
the
them to
quality
work
of
on it.
work is significantly
It'll
improving
work.
for staff and seniors and everyone.
And earlier, it used to be seniors who were doing data analytics. Now, the staff are expected to do that. So the skill sets are interesting. And we've been talking to multiple different academic institutions and some of the accounting boards. And we are saying that your curriculum has to change. You need to now start including data analytics and AI prompting as part of your regular course.
Absolutely. And again, as Miles, we work with a lot of universities where we've integrated programs, including the CPA program integrated
Right.
at multiple universities. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, get them hands-on. I mean, it could be as basic as Excel to a Power BI, and then audit data analytics tools, tax automation softwares. We're launching an AI and accounting series, and I think that's really, really important to integrate that. But academia sort of always tends to
Lag behind a
lag
bit,
behind.
yeah.
And you've been pretty involved in the university space. I mean, at
Right.
GDS, you're like one of the largest campus recruiters for
Yes,
commerce students in
yes.
India. So how do you see that? How do you, work with academia?
It's a collaboration, right? So what we've done is at GDS, we've identified the largest campuses that we hire from. So I think in Bangalore, it's Jain University, Christ University. And we've said that, right, to bring in the business perspective. So the professors may have the technical, theoretical knowledge, but I think the pace of change is so fast.
Correct.
It's difficult for them to catch up, whereas we're doing it day in and day out. So we said, when you're creating a curriculum, I said, we're happy to be involved, we're happy to contribute, and also have some of our experienced people come in and do a trainer session for your professors, so that you in turn can pass that information on.
True. Very true.
So it has to be a link, because I think a big challenge we've seen for these kids who come in straight out of college into the workforce, they say the experiences or what they've been taught in college is so outdated and not relevant to what they're actually doing in the workforce. So we want to see how do we bridge that gap.
So you've been hiring at scale and building up EY, GDS. As we were talking earlier, EY GDS is about 80,000 people around the world, and close to 80% in India. Assurance is about 15,000. So very, very large teams. And I think one of the reasons why all the public accounting firms, especially the big four, started looking at India was the accountant shortage, the talent shortage in the US and around the world. Do you want to throw some light around that? I mean, was it the talent landscape? Was it cost savings? I mean, or a combination of both?
I think at the initial stages, when people would set up their GCCs, it was a talent cost play, right? And it was in fact, we used to be called GTH, Global Talent Hub, earlier. And that was the mindset, hey, this is a resource pool for me. I'm getting people at a lower rate, and I can leverage that. That has changed. And that's why we changed the name, because today it's about where the talent is. And when you look at accounting, right, across the West, we've seen a huge drop. In fact, the number of people entering into a CPA course in the US has dropped significantly.
Yeah,
The number of accountants that are there has dropped by about 10%.
Baby boomers are retiring.
Exactly.
Very few Gen Zs entering the profession.
Yeah.
Accounting is boring.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay enough.
And it's hard work. I mean, it's a grueling course to take up, right?
And this crazy shortage. Yeah.
So, and if you look at the globe, where do you have people at scale who have accounting knowledge, who can speak English, who have more global mindset? Where's the infrastructure? And we realize that India has that.
And I think you at EY, I mean, the team at EY did a global hunting, right? I mean, you guys have GDS offices in many countries.
Yeah. So we set up.
So where did India win?
If you really look at the geography that we've been focusing on, so we had Philippines, we set up in Spain, in Poland, Mexico, as well as Argentina, right? So these are the locations, and Sri Lanka. So these are the locations. But from
Despite you having so many locations, you still say about 80% of the talent pool is in India.
So we're working to really diversify that because we want to reduce the risk. There's a lot of risk in India, and one way we've done that in India is we've set up in 10 different cities.
Yeah, earlier it used to be Bangalore and Gurgaon.
Bangalore, yeah. And then we opened Chennai, and then we had Pune, Hyderabad, Kochi, Trivandrum, Gurgaon,
A lot of
Noida.
places we feel very proud. Our offices were there before EY came in. Of course, just kidding. But
But yeah, I think you all would have set up because that's where you saw the
saw the
need. That's the
talent pool,
talent
yeah,
is,
yeah.
and we follow the talent. So it's a combination, right? Once I think post pandemic, people went to their hometowns and they wanted to be closer to family. So we said, hey, we don't want people to leave. So we set up those offices, and to get access to talent in pools which we hadn't tapped earlier.
so what do you think is there with the Indian talent pool that really makes it a winner?
I think if you look at the ecosystem that has been built for talent, right, whether it's the universities, the accounting boards, so of course CPA has been there for a long time, ACCA, CPA Australia is now coming in. So they also recognize that the talent pool is here. Infrastructure, I think the government has put that in the kind of office spaces you have, because it's also about the risk when you have, you're working with the US, Europe, when the leaders come down, they want to see a workspace which is similar to what they have set up.
True.
And that ecosystem has been set up in India. So ecosystem, talent, the right mindset of the people, because people here are extremely hungry to have different opportunities. And we have really smart people. So it's about harnessing that talent. Our second largest operation is in the Philippines. So very similar kind of background because the Asian country, they have English speaking, people are hardworking, and people in India and Philippines want to do accounting.
True.
Right? If you look at the number of, I think we have over 1 million people entering accounting every year. We have
Very true.
yeah.
I mean, ICAI has a huge pipeline. We've trained more than 70,000, so it's like it's a large pool and a huge opportunity.
Yeah. So every year we have 15, 20,000 accountants coming out from India, and no other country in the world can actually substantiate that or match that. So I think even going down in the future, India is going to be the place where we are going to continue to focus on. Maybe down the line, whether it's 10, 15, 20 years, Africa is coming up because they have, I think, one of the youngest large population. Obviously, they're lacking in terms of education, infrastructure. So I think as companies do invest right, in setting up their operations there, they will also add to the workforce. But I still feel they're a good 10, 15 years behind us.
So, so at EY GDS, let's say in India or around the world, you working with clients across multiple geographies, right? So you're working with Americas, Europe, Asia Pac, so around the world. Does it sort of make you like the custodian or the hub for global best practices? And you can go back to, let's say, the EY US team and say, the UK team does it better. Or maybe even within the country, you go back to the LA team and you tell them, you know what, the Houston office does it like this and they do it better. I mean, do you guys do that?
That's a very interesting point. And in fact, whenever we have leadership visits, one of the topics is to actually showcase what are we doing across different geographies.
How are you transforming processes, right?
So a couple of things. We have to look at it at different levels, right? One is when we have leadership visits, and we just had one a couple of days back from UK. So we had the UK financial services leader coming in, and we explained to him a new model that was launched in the US a couple of years back that's more efficient in how to do audits in the financial services industry. And it was such an eye-opener for him. Though he's in the same organization, sometimes people don't talk.
True.
Right?
True. And it's such a large organization.
Yeah. So we shared that with him, and we said, hey, we've built this model. We've built tools to help you implement it and workflow solutions and all of that. And he said, oh, I think this is brilliant. And I think I should really roll it out. And I said, we can do it for you because we have the team in India who actually built that out for the US. And now you can implement for UK. So that's one. The other thing that we do is, since we have control over all our people, though they may be spread out in different offices, it's still very interconnected. So we do sessions with our people to share best practices. And we look at, like, I'll give an example of financial services, right? So we're very sector-based. in EY. So I have an asset management team. So because I lead asset management, so I have an asset management team which does hedge funds, and it'll have managers, senior managers who are working on hedge funds in the UK, Ireland, US, uh, Australia. And so we have what we call success stories. So we'll say, hey, let's talk about the success stories we've had. What did you do on that? What was the learning? What was the best practice you implemented? Similarly on tools, to say what are the new tools that doing. So I think we do a much better job in terms of sharing these global practices internally in GDS compared to what the country practices do. And we are linked to the innovation labs, linked to any of the global things that are happening, but also at a country level.
Oh, this looks pretty exciting. And now that you've moved into a leadership level, and of course you are leading a team of a few thousand people now.
Yeah.
Do you miss the days when you were actually doing the audit? You were on the engagement.
It's a very very conscious choice which I had to make about say 9 years back, right? And because I was one of the first people to pilot manager level work at GDS. So there were three of us. I was one of them, and that was the client that I had gone to the US on secondment on, and at the end of 2 years, my counselor came to me and said, "Chung, you need to make a choice. Either you work on clients or you lead the team. You can't do both." Because it was a lot, right? If I'm out of India for 4 or 5 months in the year, that's a lot. So I thought about it, and again, whatever I think it's about 5 years down the line, I said, okay, I've done audits. I mean, I did 3 years of articleship, 5 years at EY India, 2 years with GDS on audits. I think I have a good grasp on it, but I'm not really focused as much on those leadership aspects, the marketing, the people management, right, the quality growth, all of that. And I said, okay, let me try something different. So that's the route I took. There are times where I look back and said, okay, there were simpler times when I'm just working on an audit rather than trying to fight fires across multiple geographies. But I feel that I enjoy this role a lot more because it plays to my strengths. So stakeholder management, people management, building teams, right? I think really pulling the whole thing together. So
it's like making an accountant a leader. An accountant is accountable and very hardworking, and now you become a leader and you have the same hard work and you scale the team to thousands or tens of thousands now.
Yeah. So my role is actually to really help people do the things that I used to do, right? Because if you have to move up, you have to build a team under you. You have to find somebody who can do the same job. Because if you're so good at something and you're irreplaceable, you'll never move up in an organization. So I think that's my role. I think for the past 4 years, I've been able to promote 4 different executive directors and a partner within EY GDS. And I think that's something which, to me, is a great sense of accomplishment that I'm able to give.
Isn't
those
this a
kind
lot of
careers.
hard work and back-to-back scale and quality? And I mean, you as a firm won't compromise anything to do with client engagements or client deliverables and scale and thousands of people. And a question that we always ask accountants is, do you ever have time to date? Have fun. I mean, the same question the youngsters ask you. How was your journey? How was your personal life? Getting into the CA, which was a very, very rigorous. It's like a marathon. I mean, and chartered accountants only focus on their exams and CA, and then you joined a Big Four. All of the Big Four have the same reputation for a lot of hard work, and then you still chose to continue with the Big Four and scale up the team. How was your personal life? Did you ever get time off? And time off to date?
So funny story. I actually met my wife in EY GDS. So
that's really smart, right? Because you can't
you
go
don't
out
have
of
time
EY.
to look outside, right?
And what did she do at EY?
So she was actually the HR. So she was HR and she's supporting my team. And after we started dating, I had to tell the HR leader and I had to tell my supervisor that we're dating, and she couldn't date me. She couldn't work as HR any longer because of conflict of interest. Then who's going to complain about Chung if they can't go to HR, right? So that was interesting. And of course, she then moved to consulting. So she's supporting the consulting team. But yeah, that was personal life.
So
It's been 12
you found
years.
the HR at EY who hires these people who work so hard, so she could never complain.
Exactly. But
And how has it fared for you so far?
like I said, it's been 10 years since we're married. We have a son. So it's been,
Congratulations.
thanks. So it's been a very interesting journey. Uh, but you're talking about work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
And that's a question which I get from my teams. Uh, I think that's so important because you don't want a situation where people are both from a mental as well as physical well-being. You want people to burn out or people to not take care of their physical health. And I feel that the tone has to be set from the top. So when people ask me, what do you do? How do you balance things? There are a number of things. And what I tell them is when I wrap up for the day, right, I don't mind working extra hours to get things done. I'll work 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever it is during the week. When I wrap up, I shut down. I don't check my mails. There's some people who have this habit of constantly checking their teams and mails. Has anything come? I don't check till the next day morning when I'm at work. So I'm very strict about that. Similarly, my weekends are my weekends. I tell people, right? If there's an emergency, you call me. I'm not going to check mails. Uh, and that's something which I've set as a precedence with the people I work with and my onshore stakeholders. And that's something which people also do abroad.
Correct.
So having
they,
that,
they appreciate, they really understand and
Yeah.
empathize with this. Yeah.
yeah. So having that ability to really disconnect, I think, is
So
important.
it's very unique to have a big four leader talking so grandly. I'm just kidding about work-life balance, but yeah, that sounds very good.
But that's a culture, right? If we tell people you have work-life balance, but we are not doing it and we're not following it, then I think we're being hypocritical. And it's not only me; it's all the leaders
Yeah, I
that we
remember
have.
we had an HR head earlier, and he was very clear. Varun, you need to take a vacation. Sorry.
So I think I've gotten better. I think I have to thank my wife for that, for taking vacations. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I used to be, and I would have vacation days just lapsing every year. And then she helped me realize that no, you have to also take a break. So I make sure at least my
She was
annual
in HR,
vacations.
so she knows the drill.
Yeah. So at least annual vacations I use up. Also hobbies, and this is something which I've noticed. One way for me to build my relationships with all my stakeholders, I ask them, "What's your hobby?" And I've realized the hobbies that people have in the US and Europe are quite varied. There's one German partner who's a pilot. So he flies these Cessna single prop planes. Another guy loves fishing. So he takes his boat. He has a boat. He takes it out on the weekends to fish or you have golf, travel. And they're very passionate about it. And I realized, hey, for my well-being as well, I have to pick up a hobby. So I'm a foodie, so that's one.
that's
but
a
it may
good
not
hobby.
be best for health at all times. So then I have to balance it out. So I play badminton. In fact, tomorrow morning I have a badminton game with some people from EY. A couple of years back, I bought a motorcycle, so I have a Royal Enfield. So me and the assurance leader, we take rides.
Wow.
And
And
weekend rides.
where you go to, like Ladakh and stuff, or
I haven't.
locally?
I don't have permission from home to do it that far. So the furthest I've gone is Mysore, Uti, Kunur. Done some trips closer by. So like,
you seem to be a very cool accountant, Chung.
thanks, Varun. I mean, you need to balance out life. Otherwise, you're going to burn out, and that's something which you don't want, right? You have a long career, and to maintain that, you have to take care of yourself.
And you've been doing a lot of initiatives at EY, and I was checking your LinkedIn, and we spoke about this, how you're also leading the DEI initiatives at EY. I don't know how you find the time now. Sort of, you balance things really, really well.
Right.
But tell us more about the DEI initiatives. I know with the new administration in the US, the political perspectives, the narrative has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But what's the stance at EY, or what's your role with the DEI initiatives?
So even though the US, I think the new government has obviously rolled back a lot of the initiatives on DEI, but our global managing partner, Janet Trunkeli, she came out publicly shortly after the Trump administration announced that and said, we are a very people-centric organization, right? And we want to make sure that people realize how important they are. And we are not rolling back any of our DEI initiatives. So that was a very strong message to our 400,000 plus people across the globe. We will continue to make sure that people feel that they belong, people feel that irrespective of their background, ethnic beliefs, religion, or any of that, right, they will still have a place at EY. So that's a very strong message from the leadership, and of course it cascades down. Uh, for me, I think my journey started because I've always had an outsider perspective. I'm Chinese origin, though my grandparents migrated to India, and I'm third generation. But I always had that outsider's perspective, saying that I'm not ethnically or racially an Indian. Uh, and that got me thinking that, hey, there are a lot of other people who also feel like an outsider because of whatever reason. Maybe they're part of the gay community, or they're disabled, or maybe they're neurodiverse. So it was actually a journey of exploration that got me into this role. And I volunteered. Uh, Remember, there was a working group on how do we interact with people from different generations, and I volunteered for that working group, and that led me to being invited to the DEI Council. So I represent DEI for assurance, uh, and we're looking at multiple aspects. So gender is one. How do we make sure that right, there's no discrimination between men and women in the organization, not only at the junior level, but all the way up to senior managers, in fact, partners and directors as well.
The glass ceiling comes in, and sometimes
Right,
for women,
right.
and priorities change. So, Chung, time for a rapid fire now. So let's start with your leadership style. So, one word that describes your leadership style.
I'd say I'm the opposite of a micromanager. I love to delegate. So more of, I'd say, a helicopter leader. So I just look from 20,000 feet high.
Amazing, amazing. One myth about Indian GCCs that you'd like to bust.
That we only do very basic work, and we don't have the right talent to do complex subjective work. So I think we've really evolved over the stage, and there's still some doubt, some hesitation, and we need some time to convince clients. But yeah, I think we're at a stage where we're doing, in fact, we're doing senior manager and executive director level work at GDS. So come a long way.
Amazing. One thing Indian talent does better than the world thinks.
I think looking at things from a global lens, right?
And against the best practices that you spoke about, perhaps.
Right. Because I think the perspective of people in India has now gotten a lot more global. People are working in organizations where they get to see things that are happening across, and how do you leverage that? How do you share that information with your different users? So I think we're in a very unique position.
And I think I love that perspective, right? So, we are the accounting hub for the world, and we've got the global lens.
Yeah. And if you want to implement anything at scale, any of the global leaders, first thing they do is they come to GDS. Because they're saying, hey, where else can I implement 15,000 people, the same policies, practice, or tools at one shot?
Wow. That sounds really nice. Okay. One moment when your India team wowed your US partners or your global partners.
I would say now we're getting to a stage where happens every day. It's a regular occurrence, but I'd say in the past 1 year, the number of our team members who are working directly with the client has significantly gone up. So earlier we would directly only work with our onshore teams, and we would get recognition from the onshore team. But this year, in fact, I remember getting two emails where the client directly appreciated the GDS team and say, hey, you guys were fabulous. And one client was an ex-EY senior manager who went over the client side, and his first year in the controller role. And he said, I wish I had a team when I was in EY from GDS, the way you guys have been able to turn things around. So I think having that direct client appreciation, and right, it's just validating that the skill set that we have here is as good, or if not better, than the onshore teams.
One tech trend you're most excited about?
I think for me, it's agentic AI. I know a lot of people are scared about it. They feel, oh, it's going to take away jobs. But I feel it's going to amplify what we can do. It's going to take away a lot of the manual things that people anyway don't want to do. And it'll then force us to think, how do I upskill myself? How do I work in a different way?
So one task that you'd happily offload to agentic AI?
I think my calendar management, because it's so many meetings. If it can manage my calendar, accept, reject meetings and requests, I think that will really help.
Okay, one word or phrase that would define the future of work.
I think the future work is going to be think digital, right? Because I know people are used to working in a certain way, but
And digital includes being
includes
able to use
everything.
AI and
Includes
tools.
everything. It could be low code, no code solutions, something like Alteryx or Data Snipper. It could be using bots. It could be using AI, agentic AI. So all of that, right? Big data analytics. All of that is important, right? So people need to get out of the comfort zone and need to think, okay, I need to go beyond what the way things used to be done traditionally. And it means if they have to upskill, they have to do that.
So one thing that you think needs to change in the accounting profession, of course, you spoke about digital. What else?
I think one of the big challenges in the accounting profession is you have accounting bodies in each country, which are very different. Why can't we have a situation where you have something more global, right? Globally accepted accounting body, globally accepted standards? So that way it doesn't face.
They tried that, Chung. They tried that.
I know, but we should keep pushing that, right? So then it makes mobility a lot easier. It makes it easier for people to really work across. I know they tried that convergence between IFRS and US GAAP. They succeeded on a couple of things. I think revenue recognition,
Lease accounting, maybe
lease
a little
accounting.
bit, yeah.
But yeah, I don't see a reason why that should be a challenge in the long term.
Amazing. I think that's a good place. I mean, IFAC is trying to do bits and pieces, but you're absolutely right. Everybody's like on their own, and local public accounting, absolutely. If Chung Tham wasn't an accountant, what would you be?
I think I've talked to you about my passion for food. So I love to cook when I have the time.
So when did you last cook for your wife?
I think it was maybe a couple of months back. So I don't cook every day, but when I get into the mood, so I like to try different cuisines. Of recent, I've been gravitating towards Korean cuisine. So I picked up a few dishes there.
Amazing. Okay, so we'd love to sort of have a dinner hosted by you.
Of course.
Okay, so Chung, one message to a lot of young accountants, who are trying to sort of figure out their way. A lot of them are not sure whether what's in it for them in the future, or what tracks do they pursue, what are the skills that they learn. So what's your message to the young accounting talent pool, especially here in India?
I would say the first thing is build a strong base. So once you've built a strong base, in whichever profession you're in, that sets the foundation for you to build on top, right? I said, so you start out with the technical skills. And once you've established that, then you start looking at specializing. Because when you start out, I say generalize, get to do as many different kinds of projects, different kinds of audits. So the wider the base, the better. But as you move up, right, in your career ladder, think of how you want to specialize. It could be in a particular client, a really large client. It could be in a particular sector. So you need to do that. The other thing I would say is never stop learning, right? Because things change. And I remember after clearing my Indian CA exam, I promised myself, I said, I'm never going to learn again. I'm never going to take up any other course.
CAs are talking about that. Yeah, we get them onto CPA, of course, many a times. But they were like, when we did a CA, we thought we'll never study again.
But I couldn't be more wrong, even till today. So I'm still learning. We still have to be upskilled. We have to learn new technology. Regulations always change. So that thirst, never let go of that thirst to learn. Never let go of the thirst to try different things. Take a risk. I mean, you're young, right? So maybe it doesn't pan out. You're young enough to rebound and say, hey, I'm going to reset. I did that. Things didn't work out. I reset. And in the long term, you don't want to have, I'd say, the regret saying, oh, what if I had done this? What if I had tried that? So I'd say, if you have that kind of mindset where you're always learning, you want to do more, I think that will really help you in the long term. Because I think we've talked about it, right? As you want to move up in the career ladder, the wider the breadth of experiences that you have, the higher chances you're going to move up and be picked over somebody else who maybe didn't have the courage to try so many different things.
Amazing. That's very right. So thank you so much, Chung, for taking out time from your very busy schedule. And you're a really cool accounting leader. I mean, I'd love to work for you. Thank you so much.